Right, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to Biosphere Green. If you didn't want to be in green but you wanted to be in blue, that's the room next door and you'll have to go back out into the hall and round the other side. Some of you will have already seen me this morning. My name's Roseanne, I'm BASW's Research and Policy Lead. I am not your official chair today. Our panellists are chairing themselves, but I'm just here to make sure everybody's in the right place and to hand you over to our first speakers of this session.
Thanks very much. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah? Oh, good, good. Getting a bit of echo. So hello, thank you so much for coming to this workshop. I'll just do some quick introductions and then set up the kind of session, but we really hope it is as interactive as possible. I know the seating doesn't always kind of generate that, but today, I am Jude Currie. I am a social worker working in children and families, and I have a big interest in intergenerational work. At the moment, I work with unaccompanied asylum-seeking children and young people in Edinburgh, and I've been a BASW member for a long time now, and I've had a very keen interest in intergenerational work for about the same amount of time as I've been a social worker. So it's a real passion piece for me, and I'm really excited to be here to kind of discuss and share a wee bit more about what it is, and also hear and exchange ideas about what you think it could mean in your areas of work. And I'll pass over to Alison and introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi everybody, my name's Alison Clyde and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Generations Working Together. So Generations Working Together is a national centre, expert centre for intergenerational practice in Scotland. And today we're going to very quickly, we've got about 50 minutes to try and give you an insight into intergenerational work and to try and get you to start thinking about how you could use an intergenerational approach within your social work that you're doing just now.
Okay.
And back over to Jude.
So, I mean, this slide is our welcome slide, but it's really just, I think, throughout the workshop, just to really think yourselves about what your personal and professional experience of intergenerational relationships are. So what is it that you think it means to you? And keep asking yourself that throughout this morning in the session, just I think so that you know that you're developing your ideas and able to share them with us. I feel it's about solidarity, and I was listening this morning to some of the themes, especially about doing things differently, not more, and that is definitely what I want, I think, to take away from this for me, because I think there's so little room to do more. So it is just about reframing some of the solutions to the challenges I think we face in social work, but also in the communities that we work in. So please think about this question as we go through, and I'll put some post-it notes around so you can jot down some ideas, and hopefully for yourself, but also to share with us. That would be great. And we've got next slide, which is what is intergenerational practice? So I'm going to hand over to Alison just to share a bit.
I would like to ask anybody in the room, does anybody in the room know about intergenerational practice? Does anybody in the room do intergenerational practice? We're all at the beginning of a journey? Maybe? Okay. So I could stand here and talk all day about intergenerational work, but what we've actually done is we've brought a couple of films to actually, hopefully you'll then, like us, fall in love with the concept of intergenerational work. So I wonder if our lovely gentleman at the back could maybe put on our first slide for the yoker. Could you put, sorry, not the first slide, the first video. And we're going to watch this video. It's a bit,
My name is Kat and we are at the Yoker Resource Centre. We are doing research workshops all about community safety, and we're doing this with an intergenerational group. Everything that we are doing in the workshops is building towards a collection of their work which is going to be put into a digital zine. So all of the printmaking, the discussions, the quotes from the young people and the old people, the poetry, the marbling, everything is going to be collected and put into this digital zine. Been doing a lot of styles of poetry, so I've been doing blackout poetry, recreating our own definition of what safety is. So taking the dictionary definition of safety and colouring out what we think we don't connect with and kind of keeping what we do connect with. There's going to be one longer poem, a kind of collaboration around community safety that is going to be a collection of both of their thoughts, ideas, opinions about some of the barriers, the issues, the shared kind of worries about their community, but it's also going to be a celebration of the parts of their community that they feel proud of and grateful for, and also a celebration of the people in the community that helps them feel safe. Because yeah, they are the best people for the job of research and they know best, and I think I'm really learning as well.
This workshop is a good way to discuss community safety and stuff like that. It's very helpful. I feel like it's the best way to do it. People are very open, they're very direct about how they feel about it.
I think the creative process is really a really helpful tool to open up conversations, especially conversations about something like community safety, which has the potential to be quite upsetting for some people, or to kind of bring up maybe some negative memories and things like that.
They were quite straight to the point with us, and we were quite straight to the point with them.
I think it's been interesting to be part of this research. It makes you think about how things are going in the world, and compared with younger people too. I don't really have contact with people of that sort of age group generally, so it's been good to get to know them a little bit too.
Of course, there was that initial nerves from both ends, you know. It was, you know, connecting with someone you might not normally spend a lot of time with. The
dogs made a big difference last week. They broke the ice, really. Some of the youngsters were happier to talk with or about the dogs than face to face with us to begin with, until they got to know who we were, but the dogs have been good.
I've learned to speak to people because I wasn't a very talkative person, but I can connect with older people. It's not just older people, I can connect with everyone now. This course has also taught me that, you know, old and young people, they're not different. We're still people, still have conversations, we all do the same things, we're just different ages. That's just it.
And I've been really pleased to see, you know, really important, brave conversations and brave topics being raised.
Before I met up with some of these youngsters, I think too often we look at them and think, oh, they must be bad, they must be, you know, there'll be trouble if I get near to them. Well, they're just innocent young people, really.
Old people don't want to go near young people with hoods, but I've got my hood up all the time. I'm nice. Just go about our normal day. We're not dangerous. Just teenagers.
The older people and younger people sitting side by side and creating and be making something. It takes the pressure off talking about something that is potentially difficult. Just the kind of natural conversations that were coming up was lovely to see.
It gave me an insight into what their lives are like. I will start looking out for them a little bit more.
That's involved in some community participative research that we're actually doing on the ground just now, and I just thought that was a great video to show you. Intergenerational work is about connecting the generations, the different generations, and it could be anything from very early years. It's really all ages at all stages of life, intergenerational work. We sometimes have to be careful about how we describe it if you're applying for funding. Quite often the funders look at intergenerational work as under 25s and over 50s. However, as long as you have a generation gap, you can have intergenerational work with anybody at any stage of life. You could have people in their 50s working with people in their 80s, or you could have people, small children under 5 working with people in their 40s, and we would class it as intergenerational. But don't get too held up on that definition. But the definition, what is really key about intergenerational work is that it's relational, and that is the key element. So it doesn't really matter the activities that we're doing. It's about getting people to know one another. It's about building relationships, and it has to be reciprocal. So it can't be a one-way thing. It can't be younger people doing something to older people, or older people coming and lecturing about, you know, how they grew up to younger people. It has to be reciprocal. It has to be beneficial. And there should also be a third lot of benefits which actually cascade out into the community. Because as we build relationships, we build trust, we build respect, we build empathy, we share skills, we share knowledge, we build confidence. So there is the benefits, and I think we've got a benefits slide. I don't know if I'm away past myself, but there are so many benefits. Intergenerational work fits in with community safety, with health, with poverty, with environment. We've heard this morning a lot about climate change. It's really the approach, and it's the approach that you can take by, instead of just working with one set of age, that you could actually bring with two sets. Well, I stand out the way. You're not going to get me in anyway, as it's too high. I would be jumping up in that. So you'll see there is so many benefits to intergenerational work. Now I do have leaflets, but I could only carry so much this morning because I'm going off to somewhere else tonight. But I do have leaflets. Scottish membership is free for everybody in Scotland. And there's also membership for international as well. And if you're a student or if you work with the voluntary sector, there's a lot of free memberships worldwide as well. So what I would say to you is, if you are interested, then pop onto our website at Generations Working Together, and you'll be able to get a lot more information about the benefits and about the areas of work that we're developing. But just to show you another example, I would like to put on another film. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
The nursery here is situated in the heart of Chester's vibrant community, and we are located within the Belong Care Village, and we're a fully integrated intergenerational nursery where we share our living spaces with our lovely older friends who also live here. The nursery actually officially opened in July last year, so we are still really new, but it has been 7 years in the planning. Prior to the nursery opening, I completed an intergenerational related course that was run by Generations Working Together alongside with a couple of my colleagues. And that was a really good foundation to build things upon. The Stay and Play session is something that we hold weekly here in the village, and it's very much an intergenerational activity and experience for both the children and our older friends.
Ready Generations brought me in to lead the Stay and Play because they wanted there to be a little bit more focus on music, because they felt that it was something that's it doesn't discriminate against it. Everybody can be involved in music. And looking at developing all different children's skills, so development could be speech and language, fine gross motor skills. When I plan the sessions, I try and make sure that there is lots and lots of engagement between the generations involved. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a show for them with me leading it. I wanted to make sure that those interactions happen between the generations, and that's where I carefully plan my activities to make sure there's lots of eye contact and actually giving jobs to the people in the care home, that they have an actual role and that invites the children in. So whether it's the tidy up, asking somebody to hold one of the containers and then the children collecting the items, encouraging that interaction. And like you saw with the parachute as well, it's bringing those eye levels together and the joy in the room when it floats up and they can see the residents and wave to them on the other side is quite magical to be part of that.
The Stay and Play session is a highlight of the week. Everybody gets involved, and it's also open for people from our local community to be involved, and also the families of our older friends, they can also join in. We are part of a research project, and it's been really interesting to see how our journey is also progressing.
They've actually asked me as Ready Generations to be involved in the research as well, and we are learning from every single stage of everything that we're doing and how we can keep improving it, and that's what excites me as an individual coming into it.
The changes that we've seen both in our children and our older friends has been phenomenal. The socialisation, people from different backgrounds are coming together who may not have normally. We're breaking down those stereotypes. And also with our younger children, we're noticing a vast improvement in communication and language. And it's kind of very much building on friendships, building on connections. The children being here and having interactions and spontaneous interactions quite a lot of the time with our older friends is phenomenal. We can have a knock on the door and it could be our friends bringing their budgie down. And we talk about the budgie, or we plant seeds together, or we paint. We're creative with each other. It's just, we don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next, and that's what I love about this.
I do look forward to seeing the children every day. It switches the day up and it livens me up. Yeah, I get on great with them. I know all the names. I know every child's name by heart. They know me now. Especially little. I get on really well with Charlotte.
The nursery and belong has given me hope, happiness, love. Children build things, they sing, they meet. They integrate with the elder people and the sick and the needy. They're all interdependent. They grow through that. I grow through that. That is what life is about. And I call it my Garden of Eden. And I'm thankful and grateful I'm here with my wife.
The Belong Nursery is actually an intergenerational shared site. So they're in the same building. And currently in Scotland, we have 19 intergenerational sites, which are in development. Some have opened, some are in planning, some are in consultation. We have a swimming pool that was closed down in Glasgow, and when they did the community consultation, they wanted an intergenerational hub. So they're trying to bring, and it's not just about bringing people of different generations together, because that's what we would call multi-generational, but the inter, as it says, is about how we connect and how we build the friendships. Ideally, what you would like from an intergenerational project is that people wouldn't describe each other as, oh, that younger person or that older person. They would be describing each other as their friend, and they'd be taking that away. So that's an example of a shared site. And we've got lots more. There's a Heart of New Haven in Edinburgh, which was one of the first community asset transfers that moved over, and in consultation again, they wanted to connect all the different generations from the New Haven area, and they've done that. They've just been open for a year. We were just there last week, and they're so they brought a whole load of younger people and older people and some businesses as well together in this old Victorian primary school, and they're now starting the intergenerational. So they've taken a lot of planning to get where they are, but hopefully all their activities will become mixed ages within the groups that they're doing. Do we have time for the third one, or do you
I think we do. We've got one more video to show you, if that's okay, and it's an Edinburgh-based one, so it might be nice to share that, and then we'll go on to the next bit. Thank you.
Today is the Vocal Vibes group, and that happens on the second and fourth Friday of every month, and that's around 18 of us get together and just practice different songs, like have a laugh, have a cup of tea in the middle of it. We're leading up to a performance in July where we're learning some Dolly Parton songs, so that's been fun today.
Edinburgh is the loneliest city in the UK for older people. Vintage Vibes looks to tackle that through long-term preventative activity that makes meaningful connections between different generations. That's friendships, that's groups, that's events, and that's really what we do, is just try to make connections and build confidence. Vintage Vibes has been running since 2015, and it was the result of a year's worth of research across over 400 people within Edinburgh who were experiencing loneliness or who were working to support people who are experiencing loneliness. It's grown from being solely intergenerational friendships to also being groups, events and activities. The friendships meet every single week. The groups meet mostly every 2 weeks, but a couple are once a month. Vintage Vibes has been going for 8 years. We now have friendships that have continued to meet every single week of the year for 8 years, which is phenomenal.
I went to a freshers fair and I saw that they had a leaflet saying, you know, do you want to be friends with above 60 person, and I thought it was a really nice idea, especially just moving to a new city. I thought it would make sense for me to get involved with the community, and yeah, just seems like a really nice idea.
So we meet up. We meet up every week. Every week. Every week, and it's either to go to a film or show. Yeah. 1 week, and to have a meal out. The other week. Yeah, lunch and coffee and things like that. Yeah, it's really lovely. Certainly for me, it's done a tremendous amount, because I thought I was dying in January 22. I was just so exhausted and ill. But I think being part of Vintage Vibes, having Erin and all the help, they've all been just so positive that it's helped. I've come back so much. It's really helped me in my recovery.
I feel like during exam period for myself was definitely a very stressful time. I feel like my head was definitely in my studies, but just to have like an hour to go and chat with my VIP was really grounding. It made me feel it was a lot of escapism for me, and just to focus my attention on someone and my friendship there, it was really helpful for me. Yeah.
I think that we make sure that our project has an intergenerational focus by focusing on 2 people, not 2 ages. And that is the big difference, is that everything we do is about celebrating each individual person, which means that some of our friendships are between people who are aged 17 and 90, some are people who are aged 30 and 65, but it's about who those people are, what makes them tick, and how they can add value to each other's lives, not one person be a participant and one be a recipient. And it's that mutuality that makes it intergenerational, because it's that shared life, shared joy, shared learning.
I find I thoroughly enjoy our company. We have the same interests. We enjoy walking, we enjoy nature. We have a laugh. I'm very happy to be with her when I see her.
Maisie doesn't want to be sitting in the house having a cup of tea chatting. She wants to be outdoors. I'm a very outdoors person. We both love animals. We like to have a laugh. We just talk about everything. We just gel. We do. In life, I have friends of all different ages. You know, I have friends that are a lot younger than me, a lot older than me. To me, age is just a number. It really doesn't matter.
How have we been able to evaluate our intergenerational relationships? We have given time to it. And that's not just time in terms of taking the time to listen to people, but that's also been about consistently evaluating across all 8 years. And I think one of the things that brings to light is that people become more comfortable with sharing themselves and sharing their experiences with you the longer you give them, but also the longer they know you.
The community of people, it's everything and more, a lot more than I expected when I first came to join Vintage Vibes. Interactions can feel transactional. Here, they welcome and accept you, and I'm not just talking about the VIPs, I'm also talking about the organization itself. They were happy when I came to help them, but I think I've gotten more out of the experience than they've gotten from me. So I know I've only been with the group since January, but it feels like there's no one more deserving of it.
I think it's an achievement, you know. It makes you feel as though you're doing something good, and society as well, yeah, it is actually. It makes you feel good.
It's really good. They bring people together.
They're always open for a challenge, they're always asking us for new ideas. We really, really need to build a society that cares for each other.
So I hope that gives you a glimpse into the world of intergenerational work. I think there's 3 lovely examples, and just to say about the awards, we have 5 categories each year where we ask our membership if they'd like to nominate a project. So we just had an Excellence Awards, Jude and I, at Scottish Parliament last week to celebrate. So you saw one award was from last year, and Vintage Vibes was our winner for this year. The reason why we showed you the evaluation is really important, as I'm sure everybody in the room would agree. But the one key thing about the intergenerational, it's the relationships that we are measuring, that we are trying to see how the relationships have changed. Because intergenerational work is not just putting a group of people of the one age together, it's about the difference being somebody of a different ages. And one of the benefits that we didn't talk about was the reducing discrimination, stereotypes, taking away the myths of what it's like being a younger person, and also taking away the myths about what it's like being an older person or being in a care home. The benefits, I think, are absolutely tremendous, and they are what you put into the planning of a project. But I could talk forever, but I'll hand over to Jude.
We just go on to the next one. So I think the second half's really just to try and kind of hear some of your own thoughts, having seen some of the videos. Wanted to bring it to life a little bit, but we've talked about the benefits of intergenerational work, but I suppose one of the things I think is important, especially when we want the message of it's essential, not a nice thing to do. It is a nice thing to do, but it is essential because there's so many things at stake for isolated and lonely people. And, you know, I've got a few statistics from you that I think, you know, often, I mean, we talk about loneliness and isolation, but the starkness of actually how it impacts on people's lives. So it's higher for 16 to 24-year-olds, particularly female. If you're single or widowed, if you're living with a mental health condition, if you're renting, if you're in a lower neighbourhood, if you've got lower neighbourhood belonging, and if you're if you've got lower local social trust. So that probably won't be a surprise to anyone, and I suppose in terms of the people that we often work with and the communities that we also live in, we will see it and feel it in our families and in our kind of wider communities. And I suppose the negative impacts, again, across the generations in terms of poor mental health, an increased risk of mortality, 26%. 60% of chronically lonely people have experienced mental distress, and 62% of lonely young people lose confidence. And in terms of health, it creates elevated blood pressure and stress responses, poorer sleep quality, particularly in young adults, and in adolescents, lower educational attainment, and 48% of lonely young people are less likely to progress in their work. So there are impacts of this that sit for our young people today and our children across the generations as well. So there's so many benefits to talk about, but there's so many risks if we do nothing. So I suppose part of today is really a bit of a call to activism around this field and not pigeonhole it into an underfunded, nice, sidelined thing to do. I think it will be essential to the survival of social work in many ways, in terms of, you know, we've talked for years about how our services can be really siloed. We put people in age brackets and age boxes. And I don't think there's been an area of social work that I've worked in yet where I haven't seen a place for it and a relevance for it, from lonely parents to, you know, working with unaccompanied young people now from across the world who've been displaced from their homes, who've been through horrendous trauma, and actually they don't have family networks. In Scotland we talk about the promise, which is Scotland's promise to care experienced young people, and there's a lot of talk in that about supporting family support. These young people don't necessarily have the family networks here at all, and so our communities and our efforts in our communities have to be that. And as social workers, we need to help generate those solutions and to help kind of, I suppose, just reimagine and reframe how we support people. without putting them in boxes. So these are the two questions I wanted to kind of initially put to everyone. So where do you see it exist already, and where do you see it needed? Because often it is in places and it's just not named. We don't necessarily call it as such. But has anyone got any particular thoughts so far on either of these two questions? Where you see it exist or where you see it needed? Yes. You want to speak there? Yeah, thank you.
Social work until 2009. And since then, in my village in Scotland, I've been involved in starting a time bank and trying to sort of quietly develop things there. And of course, I've met with all sorts of resistance, and I wanted the time bank to be intergenerational. And of course, people come up with all sorts of things like you can't have young people out on their own because they'll be subject to inappropriate treatment by the adults they're working with. You need to send them in twos, and I had to say, look, if you send them in twos to cut your grass or something like that, that's when the trouble starts. I just want one person to come and do that. And, you know, you will be familiar with the concept of time banks, where time is the currency, and it's about reciprocity and doing things for one another. But anyway, I did want to say how much I think that what you're doing holds the key to the future for social work, because we've got to make changes, and we've got to sort of unleash the potential of bringing people together in the way that you're doing that actually really achieves change. Because I think too often social workers are sitting around saying it's terrible and we can't do anything. But they're resisting change, and so all power to your elbow, and if there's any way I can get involved with you and help, I'd love to do that. So thank you for this presentation, and keep up the good work. I think it's great.
Thanks very much.
And it should be everywhere.
Thank you.
Hang on, because we've got people online, so they need to hear the questions.
Okay. My name is Mizan Rahman. I'm a second-year Master's in Social Work student at Stirling University. I'm just reflecting my past work life, maybe 10 years ago, and I was based around Edinburgh and Lothian, and I worked for an organization called Edinburgh and Lothian Regional Equality Council. So 10 years before, I was very much involved or partnership work with the Intergenerational Local Organization. At that time, I just thought, okay, I'm now working in the third sector, and now I just came to the social work journey because just leaving behind the third sector, all the project and funding and time passed. So now I can see that sort of relevance and how the practically, that was very relevant and involved with the real kind of a community-based social work, future intervention, and that actually, just resonate and reflect me. My kind of past experience, and I'm working with lots of BME community, and that was again another added element or value into that sort of work. Basically, I just wanted to forget what I did in the past, so now again I can see, yes, again come back. So
Thank
that's
you so
my
much.
reflection.
Thank you. I think we've got a question online. We've got a few.
We have a comment online that's just come in, which just talks about how this could potentially lessen the need for, I guess, more rigid forms of care and support, because people actually learn how to value each other through this type of interaction and engagement.
People absolutely need, I think, people in their lives that aren't paid to be there, and I think we've lost a lot of that. And that doesn't mean I don't think that local authorities and different areas responsible for social work don't have a kind of responsibility to help facilitate those and to connect. And I think commissioning's a big thing. I think third sector, I think community social work, actually there being a real respect for this kind of work, and absolutely a way of less reliance on other, maybe more, however you would describe it, more rigid or solid or structured or paid for forms of support. So thank you for all those comments. Any more? Sorry, there's a lady at the back there. Alison will probably speak a bit more to this than I do. So Generations Working Together is a kind of what they describe as a centre of excellence. So what they do is actually connect a variety of projects across the world, but primarily in Scotland, to improve practice. So it's not that you're reliant on Generations Working Together to provide the volunteering opportunity. It's about what can you do and look for in your own community and know that you have the support of a central body and a very strong, passionate team to be supporting you with your kind of excellence in practice, your evaluation, you know, and just developing what that looks like. That is growing. So there's thematic networks and a variety of different ways to connect with Generations Working Together. There's one, for example, for the Lothians, and I'm part of that. And it just means you've got a group of connected, interested people who are sharing ideas and actually opportunities as well. Some of them are really small. There's like Food for Life get-togethers where you're using food as a way to bring people together. So it's about not just offering your volunteer time, but I think thinking through what volunteering and exchange might be. So I know that's quite wide and varied, but I think it has to be. So Generations Working Together isn't something to volunteer for as such, but it can support you in ideas that you might have.
And we've just launched last week a new volunteering publication, because we recognise that we have about 4,000 members across Scotland. And what I should also say is that all across the UK, there's a Northern Ireland, there's a Lincoln Generations Northern Ireland, and there's also a centre of excellence in England for intergenerational work, and there's also a team in Wales for intergenerational work, so you don't always have to come to the Scottish one if you're not from this area. But there is lots and lots of information on our website.
Okay, great. We've got a question here and then one in the front. Thank you.
My name's Anne Conlon. One of the challenges for me is a frustration, and the frustration is when I started my career 40 years ago, there was 17 community development teams, and that was just in Glasgow. And now there's very, very few. And what happens now is that social workers are firefighting. They don't have the time. They may well have the resource, they may well have the political will, they may have the activism, but they don't have the time to do some of these projects and to be involved in these projects. They're firefighting, they're case-led, and so my question is, how do we reverse that trend? You know, people talk about not going back to the past, but there was lots of reasons why the past is in the past, but how do we provide that particular time and that resource to the radical social worker that I'm sure is in all of us, to try and get that back and become that community resource and that community development, and be back into that arena?
Brilliant. Oh, that's a great question, and I think definitely community social work, I hope it has a whole new lease of life, because I think it needs to. And I think you're right in using the term radical. It's even, up there with essential. We need to kind of push it. And I do find that myself. I do have these moments where you think, oh, where do you start? Where do you go? Because I'm really busy, work way over my hours. Generally, you're kind of just knackered, and you just think, but I want change. We know the working conditions won't change overnight, and we know we have to campaign to improve them, but we also need to imagine a better vision for what social work means. And I think that part of this is today, it's a conversation starter of we're not going to find those solutions easily or quickly, but I think by connecting in a fresh way, hopefully we'll be able to generate a bit of movement with this. So be really keen to kind of connect any interest around that, especially all the different areas, all the different bones that will make this work, for sure.
Can I just say one thing in that one as well? Part of intergenerational work is not doing it on your own, so you're not responsible for the whole project. There should be a relational element of the partnership, so whatever group that you're working with, we've got a quality indicator project where we're piloting 30 intergenerational projects across the UK at the moment with 4 domains, looking at how people are trained, how the planning happens, how we do measurements, all of that. But I think the key thing for me is for intergenerational work, it's not about doing it on your own, is that you have to be able to sustain intergenerational work, you have to really work in really good relationships, and it's very cost effective intergenerational work, because you should be sharing resources, sharing staffing, sharing buildings, sharing materials. There's so many other benefits. Our next question.
Absolutely. I think we've got a question in the front.
So I am a social worker in the older people's team myself, and I've seen actually in the older people's care homes, nurses going in and talking to people, and it's really lovely to see, and it's very important because, you know, older people are rich with stories and their experiences. And I've also seen gaps in the system as well, which is unfortunate. I've seen 2 or 3 older deaf people, and when nurses come in and there's residents around that can't communicate because there is no sign language involved, I feel like the idea is fantastic, but being a deaf person myself, I do feel that it's important to ensure full participation and access for deaf people as well, to try and stop and reduce the isolation of deaf older people and to make sure it doesn't get worse. You know, we don't have a deaf care home in Scotland, so I think this idea is fantastic, but it is very important to ensure participation for deaf people as well, and to include British Sign Language.
Absolutely. And I think something that we're incorporating into the awards every year is about generational diversity and inclusion as well, because there's so many areas that we need to be mindful about what true inclusion looks like and what the experience of exclusion feels like. So thank you for that. And you know, these are some areas that we just kind of plotted down. There's no clear answer to each of them, but I think those are all areas where I think there is room for intergenerational practice to grow and grow value. And I think it's just evidencing that value and making it really seen and visible is really important. And you know, I think it boils down to one of those comments that I think an older gentleman in the video said about knowing a child's name. And I just think about so many of the children I worked with, about just feeling known and actually having somebody remember your name in the community in a positive way when you maybe don't have that sort of multi-generational experience in your family, or if so, a positive one. And I think there's so many areas, whether it be family group decision-making, family group conferencing, kinship care, peer networks for care experienced young people, and or you know, care experienced people of all different ages coming together. You know, I know in my previous role, I had a family of 3 siblings that just weren't going to school. And I know as a social worker in children and families, those are the kind of scenarios where you think, oh, what am I going to do? Like, you know, is this going to be, you know, them in a legal order system for years with no change? And they, you know, there was no big dramatic attendance shift, but they came to an intergenerational dinner in a school. And, you know, I saw them come to that, and they were familiar with a building that was linked to their education. They were known in that building ahead of starting that school. And actually them coming and saying that, you know, there was older ladies in the community seeing them in a shop and coming over and giving them a cuddle. Do you know, and it's those small soft things. It's not an attainment or a kind of attendance level that is the key thing there. It's about their self-esteem, their sense of belonging in their own community, and being visible. And by being visible, you are maybe hopefully closer to a felt sense of safety. So I see there's so much scope for this, and I suppose we're just excited to help kind of share some ideas and our way of doing so. And one of the things I suppose we wanted to propose today was, yes, in Generations Working Together there is networks that exist, but is there a way that we can connect interested social workers in this area of work, whether that be a community of practice or a special interest group or something that, you know, we can take a bit of ownership. It will have lifelines to all different parts of social work, but actually just a way to keep the conversation alive and growing. Especially because we'll have a wealth, even within the social work profession, of different generations, and we want to harness that, and don't want to, because that's part of how we stay sustainable. So I totally feel it's relevant to the theme. Alison, have we got another question?
One more question, yeah.
Thank you. I'm Lorraine, I'm a social worker in AMP. Just going back to the question, really, it says, you know, where do we see this happening already? I think we see it in our churches, synagogues, mosques. You know, we see that already, and it sort of happens seamlessly, you know, because people, the generations do know the younger children. They call them by name. They're, you know, they're very much part of that community. But it's about, from from what I'm seeing you're presenting today, it'd be lovely if they didn't happen just in that silo, if we could get that out more into the community, because you know, that is really happening, and it's happening now in our churches, like I say. But it's just not widespread. It happens within that building, and then everybody goes off with their own lives. You know, so to see that expand a little bit more would be fantastic.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, John.
I think we've talked about the past. Somebody mentioned the past, and I think we also talked about silos. And I think within social work, I sometimes feel as a children and family social worker that we work within our own silos. And I think we're so disconnected from working with adult social workers. So, and I think there needs to be better communication between departments in terms of people that are providing services to children and people that are providing services for older people, to be able to build those relationships. So I think we need to have a role in building relationships with colleagues that are working across the lifespan. So just a comment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I'm hearing is that there's that bridging into, and it is relational, it's just a conversation with a colleague, and it might feel like you're having a conversation with a totally different system or a team, but actually it starts by saying, so why are we not talking about this? Like, was there a reason why we can't have a conversation about having that meeting together? Like, why are we having an adult care plan and a child care plan over here when there's two interested family members that are connected? There's so much scope for that, and I think, yeah, that's it. We can do small things differently, but I think it can also feel uncomfortable. But that's where I think we can support each other to do it as well. So absolutely, and bridging into things that are already there. Absolutely. Sorry, we've got a question.
Just our last question.
Oh yes, we've got one more question. Have we got a mic just for the?
Yeah, I've got a mic here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
okay, just.
Hi there. Sorry, just a really quick comment, and then hopefully we'll have time. I'm Carolyn Ewart, and I'm from BASW, and I head up operations in Northern Ireland. So one of my first questions is going to be, is this happening in Northern Ireland? And Alison, you were saying that it is happening in Northern Ireland, so I'm really interested to find out more. But I mean, genuinely a fantastic presentation, really inspirational, and I think we can all see the different connections we'd like to make to practice. And I like your idea, Jude, of a community of practice that we can take, and that's something that we in BASW can offer members to come together to explore this issue. So thanks so much.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got, I think, just time for one more question here, and then we'll have to finish for the next workshop.
Thank you. My name's Thea Sharrock. I'm Research and Evaluation Manager with the NSPCC, and it was more just really made me see the work that we're doing through this lens. So I'm working on a 10-year pilot initiative called Together for Childhood, which is working in Govan, in Glasgow, and across England, and we're working with our communities to build collective community capacity through relationships to effect change towards the prevention of child abuse and neglect. And really, the lens that you bring, I think, really comes back to us and helps us to say, well, if we're building a community of safeguarders for all children and young people, all adults, all families, everyone has a role to play in that. And I think we can do more to recognise that preventative role in this practice as well. We also have a campaign at the NSPCC called Listen Up, Speak Up, which is about just bringing very simply the ways in which we can all play our part in safeguarding practice. And I think joining that work to some of the work with your volunteers and befrienders and thinking about how to bring that safeguarding practice into that intergenerational thinking as well is something really exciting to me. So I just wanted to say that out loud in case it was helpful to anyone else.
Thank you so much. And I know we've got to finish now, but just if you are interested in connecting further with this, if you could either write down your email address on a little post-it note and give it to us, or we've got some paper up here, it'd just be great to take that away. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll hand over to Omar.